Okay, graphing cosine. Now, cosine is a lot like sine. A lot like sine. Just there's slight variations or slight differences. I don't think variations is the right word there. But, okay, so cosine, A equals cosine of B, or Y equals A cosine of B theta plus C. So everything is the same as, shoot, that's supposed to say sine. Sine, sine. Everything is the same as sine. Okay, so you have A equals your amplitude, B is still the number of cycles between 0 and 2 pi, and C is the vertical shift, up or down. Your amplitude is still A, your period is still 2 pi over B. Okay? Now, if we're going to graph this normal one, so Y equals cosine of theta. That's the same as 1 cosine of 1 theta plus 0, right? Now, A equals 1, B equals 1, C equals 0. So let's find our amplitude and our period. So our amplitude is 1. Our period is 2 pi divided by 1, which is 2 pi. Now, the difference with cosine and sine is kind of where you start at. So for sine, you started in the middle, and then you went up to the peak, and then you went down to the valley, and then you started back in the middle. For cosine, it's a C shape, and you start high and you end high. So I'm big into hiking. I don't know if you guys are, but you can think about, like, if you're at the top of one peak, you would have to go down into the valley to go up to the next peak. That's kind of what the cosine graph looks like. Okay, so you start high, end high. So we're going to start high at our amplitude. So we're going to go up to 1, and that's going to be our first point. End high, wherever the period is, and at that same exact point. Okay, and then the middle point, you go down your amplitude from your axis. So from this line right here, whoops, that was not the best line. From that line right there, we're going to go down 1, because that's the amplitude. Okay? Now, I had students a couple years ago, they had a hard time remembering this. If you draw this right here, I'm not done because we still have to draw the left side. But you could see start high, end high, and then you go in the valley in the middle. The other thing, it's kind of silly, but might help you remember, cosine graph looks like ovaries. Okay? You could talk to Mr. Acker about it. You'll probably learn about it in health, but the cosine graph looks like ovaries. So if you can remember that, that might help you remember, like, oh, okay, ovaries, you have high points on both sides. Okay? Kind of silly, but whatever. Now let's do the other side. So high, low, and then there is that cosine graph. Okay? Let's look at this. So 2 cosine of 2 theta. So A equals 2, B equals 2. So that means my amplitude is 2. My period is 2 pi over 2, which is pi. Okay? Start high, end high, middle point, go down your amplitude. So I'm going to start high at 2, right there. I'm going to go over to pi. That's the other high point. For that middle point, we're going to go down 2. Okay? And then that just repeats, and there is that graph. And if you look, see, there's that C shape slash those ovaries slash a mountain. It's whatever you want it to be. You figure out how you're going to remember this. I'm just trying to give you some tools, okay? Let's look at this one. So Y equals 3 cosine of 4 theta plus 2. So A equals 3, B equals 4, C equals 2. So that means my amplitude is 3. My period is 2 pi over 4, which is pi over 2. And my vertical shift is 2, which means that goes up 2. And we're just going to draw a new axis. Okay, there's my new axis. This is what I'm going to work off of. Okay? Now you still start high, end high. So we're going to go from our new axis and we're going to go up the amplitude. So we're going to go up to 5. And then go to pi over 2. Same exact point right there. And then for the middle point, go back down to your axis and then go down your amplitude. So down 3 right there. And then this just repeats. Okay? And there is your graph. So look at this one. So y equals 4 cosine of pi over 3, or theta over 3 minus 1. So that's going to be 4 cosine of 1/3 theta minus 1. So a equals 4, b equals 1/3, c equals -1. Well, that means that my amplitude is 4. My period is 2 pi over 1/3. You can flip that fraction. So that's going to be 2 pi times 3, which is 6 pi. Okay, remember, whenever you divide by a fraction, you can always just multiply by whatever the denominator is. And then vertical shift is -1, so you went down 1. And we can just draw that new axis right there. Okay, and then remember, start high, end high. This is cosine, so start high, end high. We're going to start at 4. We're going to go 4 from that new axis, though, so it's going to be right there. We're ending at 6 pi, so right there. Then go back to our axis and go down 4, so it's right there. And then this whole thing just repeats. Okay? And there is that graph. So the difference between sine and cosine, sine, you go up and you go down. Cosine, you start high, end high, and then the middle point is the low point. Okay, they are very similar. They're kind of just shifted of each other, but you need to know the difference. You need to be able to grasp the difference between those two. Okay, and that is it. Hope you're having a fantastic day, and I'll see you later. Bye.